Yes, I'm here with my friend LL. We don't know her name, but it is LL. And we just read Jonathan Pageau's Rapunzel and the Evil Witch. This is a new book out by him, illustrated by Heather Pollington. Very good book, and I'll give a summary and then we'll kind of talk about it. And Lisette, excuse me, LL, please feel free to jump in at any point. I'm giving away your secret. So yes, of course, once upon a time, in a dark wood, there was an old witch who was full of bitter regrets, and she lived in a small childlike cabin. And her one small joy was her cabbages, called in her native language Rapunzels, that were green flowers that she paid relentless attention to. Now, at the edge of that same forest, there was a poor woodsman and his new wife, starting to make their way in the world. And his new wife was pregnant, and as pregnant women often have sort of strange cravings, she desired Rapunzel's. And the woodsman unfortunately had no money for these, and they became kind of an obsession of hers. One day, while cutting wood in the forest, he chanced upon the witch's home. It was and noticed it was strangely childlike in size and other features. And he took one of those Rapunzel cabbages, and as he left, he heard a voice say, "Do it again, and I'll take what's most precious to you." And that night, he gave it to his wife, and she dreamed dreamless, pure sleep. A few days later, she again desired some Rapunzel cabbages, and the woodsman walked by the house a few times over the next several days. And one day he walked a little too close, and the witch came out, and he pleaded with her for his wife's sake. And she proposed a deal that they trade the cabbage for his firstborn. And he went home and he told his wife about that. And of course, the answer was no. But again, that night, she had bad dreams, restless sleep, and in the morning asked him again. So he went back to the witch's house, and he gathered in his arms as many of the cabbages as he could carry. And the witch was there, and no words were exchanged, but there was an understanding, of course, between them. And he went back home, and his wife ate those, and once again, they had a peaceful and happy home. After a while, their baby was born, and amidst all the activity around that, they forgot their debt. But the witch reasons that they don't really deserve to have a baby. They chose the pleasures of the belly instead. And she looked at her empty garden, and at night she went and took the child, and then she went deep into the forest. And she thought, "You will be my precious golden flower." So Rapunzel grew up with lots of love and attention. Uh, the witch had spells of protection, a circle of protection around the house, and that made Rapunzel's hair grow unnaturally long. And after years, Rapunzel started to plead for her freedom, but the witch told her, "No, you are safe here." Uh, and her beauty grew, and the witch very much knew the power of beauty. So Rapunzel grew to 12 years old, and she one day was walking in the garden, and she saw a boy a little bit her senior, named Zoran, in a tree. And he said she should join him. And so she walked outside the circle of protection, and they sat there a long time looking at the heavens together and the passing of the celestial bodies and everything. And then it came time to go down, and her long hair got tangled in the branches, and she fell. She got blood on her knees, and she yelled. And the witch ran out, and Rapunzel, and Zoran ran away. So the witch took out a cracked mirror and from her pocket, and she asked the question that she had asked before about who is the fairest in the land. And the answer enraged her, and she knew that Rapunzel was in great danger. So the witch, uh, some ways deeper into the woods, built a great tower, and Rapunzel was trapped there. She could look at the birds and the sky, but she couldn't touch anything. And she would sing sad songs, and people would hear these and think they were spirits or elves or something. And over time, woodsmen started to tell a tale of a forest siren that could lead you into great danger. Now, the witch would visit her every day, bringing her food and water and an occasional treat. She would call up to Rapunzel, of course, let down your hair, and she would climb up that way. Now, the prince one day, he heard the singing and he came upon the tower, and he sees the witch go up and down and leave. And so he called up the same way, and he introduced himself as Albert, and they talked all night, and they had weeks of visits. And one day, when the witch visits Rapunzel, she notices the change in her. And Rapunzel asks her again, "When will I leave?" And the witch said, "No, the world is cruel to beauty, but Rapunzel has grown bold from love." And the witch grabbed her by the throat, and she said, "You're never going to leave." And she made the thorns around the base of the tower grow high. Now Albert kept visiting, and one day he gave Rapunzel a flower that she put in her hair, and also her belly began to grow. And the witch, noticing this on one of her visits, struck her and cut her hair, realizing what had happened, that she had a male visitor, a husband. And she took her down the tower through a secret staircase and down a long tunnel, even deeper in the woods. And Albert came up uh, on the hair that the witch had dropped for him, and then when he saw her haggard face, he was shocked, and then she dropped him from the tower, and his crown dropped, and his eyes got pierced by the thorns, and he wandered for years begging, growing weak and frail and bitter, begging and telling people he was a prince and getting laughed at. And Rapunzel also wandered, and she found eventually an old childlike cottage, and it was kind of in ruins, but somewhere in the kitchen she found some Rapunzel cabbage seeds, and she cleaned up the place, and she started growing vegetables there, and she gave birth to twin boy and girl. And she got help also from an aging woodsman and his wife who lived nearby and who had been bereaved by the loss of a child they had endured a few years ago. And Rapunzel, you know, learned many things, and she learned to embroider patterns onto clothing, and she began to sing again. And the woodsman and his wife helped them to rebuild the house and the garden. And so the prince is continuing his wandering, and he's bitter. And he saw that there was a coronation of a new king, and he was telling the those gathered around that that should be me. And he wondered about his mother and his sister who was getting married to the new king, and they laughed at him. and he sulked away to the woods, getting cut, tripped, and twisted his ankle. And then he heard a voice asking, what's going on? And the prince says that I'm just going to wait here to die. And the hermit took him back to his cave. He nursed his foot. He heard the prince's story. And over the next several days, couple of weeks, the hermit is listening to him, talking to him, and spinning flax into cloth all the time. It's kind of the background of their conversations. And hermit says, I've heard a story recently. It's about this peasant boy who climbs up this beanstalk, and he sees this castle, and he goes in there and he plays a harp, and then he's eaten by the giant that lives there. And the prince corrects him, and no, that's not how the story goes. This is my story. This is the story of Jack. And of course, he took the harp away, and the hermit says, "That's right. Yeah, he wouldn't play the harp without taking it away from the giant first, and that'd be kind of like eating raspberries or something without plucking them from the thorns first." And then another day, the hermit tells him another story. A princess was chased into the woods by her stepmother, and she was tricked into a deep sleep. Uh, only to there was another story where the princess was chased into the woods by her stepmother, and then she was tricked into a deep sleep. Only a true kiss from a prince would awaken her. And so the prince searched for a while, and then he couldn't find her, so he just abandoned the search, went back home. And then, of course, this prince, corrected him, and that's my very own story. The That's the story of my mother, and no, the prince found her, and you know. So the hermit tells him, "Yes, yes, right. These are your own stories. Maybe you should attend to those." As his foot healed and he said goodbye. So the prince left the hermit, and as he wandered, he started to appreciate strangers' generosity. And he thanked heaven for all the food and the kindness that he got. And then one day he heard a crow cawing a lot, and then there was silence. And in the silence, he suddenly heard this faint voice singing, and he realized that it was that of his beloved, and he followed it for days and he got, bruised and cut up and everything until he reached a small clearing, and Rapunzel saw him and rushed out to him, and her tears cured his fell into his eyes and cured his blindness. And then she introduced him to his two young children, and yeah, they lived together, and he knew that he should never return to the castle, and be happy with his family, and that if Jack knew of the existence of him and his children, that they might be in trouble. So he decided to try to be happy and contented with the domestic life there.